Hello, my name is Matthew, and today I'm going to introduce you to my take on Tournamental, revamping the required skill by introducing a selection of puzzles based around a specific mechanic. The mechanic I'm introducing today is known as button lock doors. Button lock doors are, as the name suggests, a set of doors and buttons that mostly follow the look and functionality from Crypt of the Necrodancer. How about I show you how it works? The player can interact with tiles by moving around, and we'll notice a few things. There's a door, a button, and a box. This button, when stood on, can open the door. Stepping off of it will show the door closing. The player cannot enter when the door is closed, and may try to push this box around, given the option. When they push the box onto a button, the door will open, allowing them to go through. This gives a ability to simulate progression, moving through the map. Continuing on, pushing on another box, and then further onto another one, the player may notice another door opening, but they may also notice that other doors are not. Specific doors requiring specific buttons are a key thing. Push a box onto this one, move around, and at this point the player may notice in the bottom left the stamina bar is getting low. Stamina is a key point of this, as boxes are required to be on the buttons for them to stay pushed down, because when the player steps off, they push back up. It will not completely keep a door open. Player can get to the end, and this is progression with this mechanic. Let's get into how it works. We'll start off by looking at the door blueprint. On begin play, it'll set it that way the tile cannot be entered. So, whenever the door is put into the map and the player goes to start playing, they cannot enter this space by default. Can't just walk across it. The next section. This is an animation to show the door opening or closing, and then allows the player to enter the space of the door, running through an animation, so on and so forth. Over here we have an event known as partial change. It changes the color of the door's band to cyan, the band being this portion. Below that we have an event known as complete, which will set the color of the door's band to green. And then we have reset color, which will set it to orange. Down here, we have an interface event pulled from a blueprint known as iButton activatable that will take the event toggle on, connect it to a branch to see if is active is set to true or false. If it is set to false, it will set it as true. Further pushing into complete, which was setting to green, having a short delay, and then running the function event or the event open door. Event open door being what plays the animation up top, and then this will set the player to be able to enter the doorway. Down here we have event toggle off, which attaches an interface event toggle off to the event closed door. Additionally, setting a value known as is active to false to tell the door that it's closed, and further runs the event called partial change to change the color of the door's band, partial change being cyan. The animation is 2 seconds long and is set on a float track known as alpha. Over here in tile button, we have a couple things, starting off in the event graph. When it comes to event begin play, we're setting entity on tile to false. A player does not start on this tile, they will not. Then we have, in this section, event on entered, which is called from another blueprint, as this blueprint is a child of tile. When entering the button space, get all buttons actors and make sure it's not equal to the length of the amount of solutions from another blueprint known as button lock manager. Additionally, check to see if each index is showing as having an entity in space. If it does, run a function from the door blueprint to change the color of the door's band, and if there's not, regardless, we'll continue on. Before we move to the next section, let's look at event on exit. Event on exit, when exiting the button space, get all button actors and check to see if there are no entities on the tile. If there are no entities, run the function from the door, reset color. If not, continue as normal. After the normal portions have gone through, it will cast to both the player and interactable box entities, and for the event on entered, we'll change the values of entity on tile and the is pressed to true. For on exit, it'll set them to false. Towards the end, this will run an animation. For on entered, it will play the animation that is connected to a set relative location and a lerp vector node, changing the value of button down by 12 units. Button being this portion right here. And then when the animation is finished, it will call an event dispatcher called onPressedButton to be used elsewhere. For on exit, it will reverse the animation, setting it back to its normal state. There is also a function known as getActivation, which is used later to output entity on tile as being pressed down. That being said, let's move on over to the Button Lock Manager. The Button Lock Manager has a few things to it. When the game starts, bind an event to onPressedButton gotten from the tile button blueprint. And the bound event is known as checkSolutions, which clears the complete and incomplete solutions variables from a previous session, those being connected and set as the value for structure buttons, another blueprint that we have that I'll go over in just a moment. Then, for each value in the solutions array, run a function called checkSolution that will output whether or not to add the current value to complete solutions or to incomplete solutions. CheckSolution as follows. For each value in the solution section of the manager, get the value of the button that's assigned to its index value. Upon receiving the value and running the getActivation function from tile button to check if it's pressed down, it will check to see if those values are equal. And if they aren't, we'll set it as not complete. If they are, we'll finish out the loop and we'll set this as complete, outputting a true value instead. Moving on for the event graph, this finishes out and pushes on down to the compile activatables function. Compile activatables goes for each value in the complete solutions array, get each assigned actor from the activatable section of structure buttons. For each assigned actor, add them to the activate list array. Once finished, it will then continue down. For each value in incomplete solutions array, get the assigned actor from the activatable section of struct buttons. And for those, assign them to the deactivate list array. When all of this finishes, it will complete and output the activate list and deactivate list values. In the event graph, this runs through a for each loop for either, and then for each array element for their selective section, will either toggle on or toggle off. So, the to activate list will toggle on, to deactivate will toggle off. Moving on, the interface is just a set of two functions, toggle on and toggle off. There's nothing set to them by default, only to be edited elsewhere by multiple blueprints. Structure buttons has three sections. There's buttons, which looks at the tile button blueprint. Activatables, which will look for an actor blueprint, can be used for things other than doors. And solution, which is a Boolean value set to true or false. Normally, in the level, will be set to true. In here, as set before, the button can be placed on a tile the same way as a door can in a different area. If I wanted to, I can change the tile type to tile door, or I could take it and change it right back to a button, and vice versa, so on and so forth, even into a tile floor. The doors and buttons are managed by this button lock manager, which takes in a solution, which follows this set of index. Buttons, which is tied to a specific button. This one, tied to this. tile button 5. We'll then run to check to see if it's true. If it is, the activatable tile door 1, which is this one, will do its stuff. So when the button's pressed down, this door will open thanks to the button lock manager telling it to do so, and the player can go on through. The same thing happens for other blueprints, or not blueprints, but managers, just like this one, which calls for multiple buttons, which checks to see their value, which can be true, false, etc. For these, it's also tied to tile door 6, which is just this one. Each manager has their own set of tied buttons and tied solutions, as well as tied doors. This is universal, it could be used for multiple things. Does not have to be just a door that is activated, but could be something else. Thank you very much, and I hope this proves to be very interesting for the future.